Alright, YouTube, it's another video. Still don't get any comments on my videos, but at the very least, this is going to be used as my captain's log, as the Enterprise or whatever. And this one is going to be another one called, I think I'm going to call this one the Life Behavioral Sync. How we are, where we are today. I don't know. Who cares? I've been, I know everybody talks about the John Calhoun mice utopia experiment, and, I think we all see some parallels today with it, even if, people, maybe over-exaggerated, the doomer types maybe over-exaggerated, and I think they do. I think that there is some parallels to it, and I think that we need to talk about that more because, I think it's the scariest end game, other than maybe just, in some ways a meteor blowing up the earth or whatever would be shorter and less scary, in a lot of ways, but nevertheless, here goes. One of the first things I wanted to bring up with the Mouse Utopia experiment and the people who love to bring it up and talk about how we are living in it. The people who I've noticed love to talk about how we're living in the Utopia experiment are the beautiful ones. What I mean by that, which is, the mice who apparently after receiving their utopia basically huddled in the corners or along the edges of the enclosure and just kind of sat all day and groomed, I guess thinking that they were too good for the society or beautiful or whatever. And the funny thing about it is those people are the ones who today are terminally online, don't do anything at all, and basically just constantly bring up these things, the how we're in the death and decay phase, or how the economy's gone to shit or whatever. You haven't know. Both men and women do this. Instead of actually going outside and socializing and meeting people and discovering that they might actually, like people and like doing things with people, they instead watch their favorite streaming service. More likely than not, it's actually probably just YouTube or Instagram, TikTok, or maybe like a Twitch or something. And they don't understand the parallel between the beautiful ones and themselves. I see more and more people taking pride in not talking to people. In a way, I think they're doing it as a passive, I think they're doing it as a hump, like a subconscious, they're bragging on the surface, but deep down inside they're striving, they're pleading because they're insanely lonely. But, I see more and more people taking pride in I go into the automated checkout machine at the grocery store. I don't want to talk to people, or, something like that. Or, the people who love working from home. And while I can see working from home having its advantages and should be, allowed to some degree, I do think it should also be necessary for companies to say, a few days a week you should work in the office, especially obviously if you don't, live near the office, and you telecommute, and you were telecommuting, before COVID or during COVID, or just even now you switch jobs. Obviously some people want to work from home. I get that, I guess. But if you live in the city, within 30 miles or so, I think to some degree you should be maybe once or at least twice or maybe 3 times a week be forced to go into the office and work. I do that. I'm a early, I guess you would say young millennial. I'm in the middle third. I've said this numerous times, middle third. But I'm maybe in the younger half, born in the early 90s. And I mean, I see it there too. I mean, it's like I like going into the office. Not just because, am I more productive for my company? Yeah, I am. I'm not gonna be one of those delusional people who just hates, it's like I want to stick it to the man, stick it to the company I work for because they underpay me, which, I would argue they do. But I'm not going to be delusional and say because I wish I was making 15, 20 grand more a year. Um, working from home, I am not less productive. It's like almost everybody on the planet's less productive. You're more likely to get up and walk around your house or apartment and probably, do something, pet your dog or make food or take a nap or whatever. And in general, it's just like that's just how it is. And there's nothing again wrong with doing those things. Everybody should take a break wherever they're at, whether they're in the office or not in the office. You need to take a break every, hour or two. But you also need to understand that you probably are less productive at home. You just are. More people than ever feel more distracted in this high-speed internet age. They feel more distracted at their home and not more at peace. So, but anyway, I'm getting off topic a little bit with the beautiful ones, but I see more and more people taking pride in like not interacting with people. And I think that is, kind of sad, and it also means you're the beautiful one. Whether you think you're too good to interact with other people, which means you're in a, maybe not physically more beautiful, but like you feel like you're more beautiful in the sense that you're better than them, which is really the main takeaway. When in whatever criteria you evaluate, you think you're too good for them. You think you're too beautiful for them. So the people who take a lot of pride in bringing up the Mouse Utopia experiment are also people I've noticed that are, they kind of don't really want to interact with people that much other than to like brag about something they've done. They are the beautiful ones. And I see more and more people doing this, um, especially during and now post-COVID. We've been post-COVID for what, maybe like 2-ish years now. I mean, obviously COVID will be around forever, I would think. Or, I mean, to some degree, I guess. But, but it's way less. We know more and more about it. There's a vaccine, and I know everyone thinks the vaccine is evil for some reason, but, whatever. Anyway, I think a lot of COVID denial shit is just people who are lonely and isolated and want to believe in something to make them feel like they're on the inside loop rather than believe in it because of any sort of real raw data. And every time I've ever, really met people who talk about the vaccine and then say you have to, or how bad it is that you have to look at the data, and then I kind of ask them like, what data? And then it's always either A, some really, really like bullshit source, or B, they don't have anything at all, really. They just, say talking points or something like that. But yeah, I mean, everybody is living in this, behavioral sink of more and more people feel like they're the beautiful one. They're the correct. They don't want to go out and meet people. They don't want to, they talk about how lonely they are, but they don't want to take that plunge and kind of really do it themselves. They don't want to admit that they need people in their lives. I think that is one of the biggest problems. I actually think, people complain about inflation more than ever, and yet, or how life is so damn hard. And it's like, and yet, they spend all day, they wake up to their smartphone alarm clock and they browse social media in bed, for an hour before they really put their feet on the fucking ground, you know, and actually, put clothes on for the day. It's like, it's hard. Yeah. It's like when you're chronically being distracted by whatever's trending, and needing to like, feeling missing, like you're missing out because you didn't watch the most recent stream of your favorite left wing or right wing nut job, and actually, you're not living your life. You are living vicariously through somebody who's never fathomed your existence, and if they ever met you, wouldn't really care much about you. But the point is that, the behavioral sink, more and more people, because they see that, they're like, well, I'm isolated, I'm lonely, and they get bitter, and they think they're, they think that they are more better, they think they're better or more beautiful than others, which then it creates the behavioral sink, that, more and more people become the quote beautiful ones, which is just, again, just people who are not doing anything with their lives and terminally online, and think they have all the answers to all the world's problems when really they are part of the problem, and they just don't want to admit it. They don't want to take the plunge and meet a new person and open themselves up because of, I guess, they fear being hurt. But that's how life works. I mean, every time, you can't make friends with people without being vulnerable to some degree. And I just don't see how people haven't really realized this yet. Anyway, another topic about the mouse utopia experiment is I guess you would say, a lot of things like, antidepressant culture. I am a firm believer that antidepressants are too good. They're too effective in the sense that, um, you know, you'll take them and you'll trick your brain into thinking you're happy and when in reality is the initial usage of antidepressants was to trick your brain to jumpstart it as like a jumper cable for a car during the wintertime. That was the original intention, to use these antidepressants, if you are so depressed you can't even get out of bed in the morning. But what it's kind of become now is basically just used in a way to, I don't know if I'd say pacify you, but use you in a way to make you, as almost just like a quick fix that's not really going to fix your problem. If you are on an antidepressant, I think you should have to be reevaluated almost every 6 months or so to make sure, because if you're not doing anything to improve your life. So, for example, I know two people who in the mid more like late 2000s, right when I was in high school and finishing it up, got highly addicted to World of Warcraft. I mean, this was like near the peak of World of War. I always said vanilla was the peak because it was like this new, fresh experience. But a lot of people will say Wrath of the Lich King was the peak, mostly because it's like kind of the end of the storyline that started with Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, because you had to kill Arthas, and then after that, World of Warcraft kind of branched off and did its own things with Cataclysm and beyond. But either way, who cares? Wrath of the Lich King, they were addicted to it, and I know two people who got prescribed an antidepressant. They would be going to bed not feeling fulfilled. I mean, they would enjoy raiding when in the moment when they would raid with their buddies, but then they would turn off their computer, especially on nights when they were just playing by themselves and not actually raiding. They would turn off their computer and then they'd be depressed. They literally told me this, and I don't think I didn't prescribe them anything, but I told them, well, maybe you should go on an antidepressant, or at least talk to a psychiatrist or psychologist or whoever you fucking talk to about those things. They both went on an antidepressant, and instead of, the only difference that changes, they still played World of Warcraft for 8 to 10 hours a day, and the only difference was they would go to bed not as sad. And I actually would argue that that is a very, very dangerous situation to be in life. That's even worse than being depressed while playing World of Warcraft and not being on an antidepressant. It's kind of like in programming where you kind of have two different errors. There's multiple. You have like a syntax error, and your program won't even compile and run. And those errors are actually the better ones because they're easier to fix. You just see, oh, I missed a semicolon or whatever. But there's the more dangerous error, which is like a runtime error, where you can output something and then, oh shit, this is not correct. Maybe I did a math calculation wrong, and now all of these pieces of data will be bad or wrong. And those are harder to fix because you don't see it necessarily until you look at an absurdity or you have something to compare it to, and then it's like, well, the comparison is way different. And so that's the situation of when you're on an antidepressant and you're still doing the same thing in life. Now you have to like look at things differently and be like, oh shit, it's, the drug is making it worse, and now it's harder to correct because, you might not even think you're unhappy, but you deep down inside, you're not really doing anything to make your life better. So it's like you're going to be worse off. And the way that antidepressants contribute to the behavioral sink and the mouse utopia experiment is, just like how the people who love to brag about how they don't interact with people and how they hate people and everything. Well, antidepressant usage begets more people to be on antidepressants, especially when people are using antidepressants and not really changing their life. And in order to change your life with an antidepressant, um, you have to make sure that you're actually changing you're using that to jumpstart your life, and not as a drug to handicap, or just as like a get out of jail free card. Um, and if more people are on antidepressants and they're still playing, in this case of my metaphor, my story, they're playing World of Warcraft all day still. They're not changing their life. Well, it's a metaphor for other people who still do the same TikTok usage, YouTube usage, Twitch streamer usage, um, and they're not really fixing the problem, which is you need to get off the computers and actually socialize in the flesh. Um, so more people then, as more people go on antidepressants and still keep just consuming internet media all day, more people look around and say, well, where did everybody go? And then other people, oh, you're depressed. And then they go on the antidepressants too, because they look around and like, well, where did everybody go? And I'm lonely and sad. And then somebody says, oh, you're just depressed, and let's get you a drug to fix you. No, it's people want to be around people. As much as people love to say how independent they are, and the people who do this the most tend to be liberal women and conservative men. So if you're a liberal woman and conservative man and you're hyper obsessed with your independence, but you're on an antidepressant, I would argue you need to probably, think about things a little differently and actually be willing to criticize yourself like I do. I know I'm a loser, right? See, that's the beauty of me. Sometimes I get in debates with my family, and they try to bring up how, oh, you're just, jealous or lonely or sad, or you're kind of they don't say loser to me, because family members won't really do that, but they kind of insinuate it. And then there's been so many debates I've had with my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister, and I'll just say, yeah, you're right. I know I'm a fucking loser. What's your point? Um, I know I want people in my life. I want a reasonable social life. I wanted Friday nights in my 20s, where things like the local mall had people goofing off. There were still bookstores and malls. I wanted there to be meetup groups that go to movies, and that's another thing. I joined a meetup group to watch movies, and it was the most depressing thing ever. People would just show up and then 5 minutes before the movie and then leave right after. And it's like the only people I really connected with were the husband and wife who started the movie meetup group. And I think they were just local or knew they moved to the area. But it's like you have people, these were people who probably claimed to be hyper independent, and they were so lonely that they didn't know how to interact with people in the movie meetup group. They didn't want to talk about the movie afterwards. And instead, they just they just didn't, they were afraid to buy a ticket to go to a movie by themselves, because they viewed that as like a loser thing to do. And so they would literally feign interest in a movie meetup group and not actually meet the people in the fucking group. And there were very few people who did. And again, it's a behavioral sink. Then that movie meetup group, I haven't really done it since, because it's such a dull experience. And so it just creates a never-ending downward spiral until you reach, a breaking point, a Big Bang, a universe-creating event where eventually something dies out, or whatever. A supernova, an event horizon, a black hole. I don't fucking know. But yeah, I think that people just this mouse utopia experiment that people love to bring up all of a sudden, or since maybe COVID especially blew it up, but it probably I knew about it well before COVID. Um, people love to bring it up, and they don't realize they are the people themselves. They don't go out, they don't do anything. They take pride in ordering DoorDash and barely talking to the person who delivers their order. They don't want to meet people at the grocery store. They don't want to meet people at every mall is dead. Meetup groups are all fucking worthless now. People aren't interested in each other anymore, and I think that's the only reason why everything's gone to shit. I try desperately to put myself out there, both for friendships and maybe to meet a girl, but neither one of them are significantly happening. And I think it's because people are very, very, in a way, you could argue they have this hyper obsession with becoming a guarded person, that they don't realize that they're insecure, even if they think that they're this independent person. Maybe you actually are an independent person on the surface. Maybe you make good money. Maybe you live by yourself, or You don't need a roommate. But deep down inside, your hyper obsession with this independence is actually because of your insecurity to open up and be vulnerable with other people. And I see this happening so much. It does not matter age, race, gender, sexual orientation, religion that you follow, or if you're atheist. It doesn't matter. I just see this same thing everywhere I go. People obsessed with looking like they're this, like, I guess, you hear it all the time, alpha males and sigma males and independent girl bosses and, you know, the maybe you'll meet some like religious type person that is this like religious figure who's this like wants to be this commanding presence and promote their stupid, their religion, or atheists. You see atheists do the same thing. This like atheism was a fairly popular thing in the late 2000s, and then people kind of realized, oh, these people are just elitist pricks. There's plenty of religious people. There's plenty of Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, Buddhists, Shinto, Hindu, you name it, anything else. Most people are kind of just there and they're not really bothering you, and you're acting like you're the prick. You're the elitist scumbag. And people don't, and then everything just, goes to shit. It's all about this sort of, oh, I'm this holier, I'm this big figure, I'm this, quote, beautiful one. You're your own. Most of these people I know either A, are already living the, quote, beautiful one's life, or B, they want it even, maybe, and some people who are already living that life are still not happy with being a beautiful, they want even more of the, quote, beautiful one life. What is I don't even know. It's like they want a constant check coming from Instagram or YouTube or something every month for their stupid pictures and videos. And then they don't want to meet new people, and they don't want to go outside. Or if they do meet people and go out, they try to view everything through this lens of, oh, that's good content. Holy shit. Are you ever not needing your phone? Again, I understand the irony of my entire channel based on me criticizing this thing and putting it on the very thing I criticize. However, again, if my life socially became more robust and I actually met large amounts of people, again, I don't need tens of thousands, but when I say large amounts, I mean like, I'm a firm believer that a good example of this would be, I think everybody, well, not everybody, because there are some people who are mentally deranged almost, or who are mentally unwell, but the vast majority of human beings should at least have one day on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights or something like that, where they're invited to something to do with people. And I don't see that happening much anymore, or nowhere near as to the level as it was before COVID. And honestly, even during the 2010s, I wasn't really seeing it. It was better than it is now, but the decline was already starting then. 2007, 2008, 2009 was kind of the beginning of this problem. It was way better than it is now, but it was a large chunk of that, and it's because of terminally online. So yeah, the behavioral sink has been going on for 15 years. People don't want to acknowledge it. They are the beautiful ones. If you're somebody who brags about not talking to people, meeting new people, you are the beautiful one. Maybe you're not physically beautiful. Maybe you're actually really physically ugly. That's not what it means. It means you think you are better than everybody else, that you're not socializing and meeting new people. So I hope people actually start opening their eyes to their own behavior. I also think this is why the economy's gone to shit. I mean, you can talk about how you feel left behind in society, but it's like, well, yeah, you feel left behind because you wake up every morning to a smartphone alarm clock and browse social media in bed before you start your fucking day. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, now it's 12 noon and you haven't done anything, you know? And when I say do something, I don't necessarily mean working for some company that treats you like shit. I get it. There's a lot of workers who are treated like shit. I'm not talking necessarily about that. I'm talking about opening a book and studying, or starting a group with friends, or meeting new people and putting yourself out there socially. That's supposed to be fun. So yeah, the behavioral sink that we live in, fuck your mouse utopia experiment. Stop bragging about how you think we're closer and closer to it and how you're seeing it. That type of mentality is the problem. Go outside. Fuck the Mouse Utopia experiment. Meet new people. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. That goes for everybody. I don't care how old you are, how young you are. I don't care if you're male or female. I don't care if you're straight or LGBT. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, biracial, multiracial, whatever. You have to put yourself out there eventually. And again, it's not about serving a capitalist system. It's about putting yourself out there, meeting new people, listening to what they say. Maybe you don't like everything they say or believe in. Depends on how much. If you're willing to concede maybe some aspects that maybe you need to rethink, maybe you'll find common ground with others. Maybe if they just are completely different from you, well, then you just politely excuse yourself and you don't really talk to them ever again. But if you have to connect, if you have to agree with everything your friend or this new person, if you have to agree with them on everything, well, I mean, that's going to make you bored eventually. So yeah, you have to put yourself out there eventually. Fuck your behavioral sink. Fuck the Mouse Utopia experiment. Best of luck to you all. Goodbye.